I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
If you would like to get your song reviewed, dear listener, there's the filthy capitalist option. As Sori says, 125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be a part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. 125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and then get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at vinsori@gmail.com, and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Yep. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
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 That's British for garbage.
My favorite is the community option. $1 at the gate gets you in at Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go on the village, facebook.com/Vin and Sori. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sori and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 tier and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy our merch.
Buy our merch, indeed. A child shall lead them.
To buy our merch.
Yes. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. But aside from our merch, what we about here is the music.
Right. We're about the music, and we're about the village.
Yes, sir.
So we have a DJ on tonight.
Yes,
DJ
sir.
Mike Franco. Woo, 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 woo.
Yes, sir.
And he has got a list on here. Some bands I've never heard of before.
The first band up is a band by the name of Sylosis. The name of the song is Transcendence.
Yes.
I think this is actually a lyric video.
That's good for you.
Otherwise known as a lyric video, you beautiful people. So let's get right into it. Sylosis, Transcendence. Let's go. Oh, yeah. Starting right off with that metal, boy.
Control.
beautiful musicianship.
Unbelievable.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Beautiful musicianship. I know of a band that's got Won't Be Long in the chorus.
Yep.
Holy smokes. This is a deep freaking song.
Yeah.
This is a deep song.
Yep.
Holy smokes.
We're talking about like religious, I guess, escapades in conquering and
maybe
people have had to suffer.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's
in the name of religion, his blood be on us and all of our children. Will you? Wait a minute. Where was it? Where? In the name of your God, for thoughts, beliefs, cleansing the earth. Who are you to criticize? You fight for nothing but a lie. You know what I thought was interesting about this?
Yeah.
And shoot, maybe what is this attached to? Is it supposed to be attached to me?
No, it's
Okay.
nothing. That was
So
one of the chargers that bit the dust.
oh, so I guess probably from spending so much time around you and like nuance, everything. What about the nuance? And it always seems like there's like when you think you've thought of everything and there's something else that kind of like, oh yeah, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
That does have an effect. So in this song, I was thinking about like, so obviously in Christianity, if you're talking about the flood,
Yeah.
God, it says that that's what he did. He cleansed the earth and all those people died in the flood because there was so much evil continuously.
Yeah.
And so, that is a part of our belief system. But, and maybe this sounds like, I've probably said in my life a couple of things that I was like, this sounds crazy as it was coming out of my mouth. This is kind of like one of those, but it doesn't sound crazy to me. So it may be more crazy than
Just
I actually
say it, damn it. What are you talking about?
So when it said, like, you hear people say, well, we have to watch about population control. And so they'll kill people or children in the name of population control or not wanting to overpopulate. Is there going to be enough food and stuff like that?
Well, who's actually killing? Who's actually doing that to kill people though?
Well, I've heard it as justification for abortion a lot.
Well, yeah, we covered the big homie. What do you call it? Bernie, when he alluded to that. Yeah, but go ahead.
Okay, so to me, like, if you have to step out of all of those situations and say, I don't have a belief in any of them, and I'm just going to set the facts on the table and try to unemotionally look at it, I think if there is a higher power and he created everything and he said, look, this is the way that life works best and you should live within these confines, right? And then people don't, and it wasn't just that people were kind of making mistakes here and there. It says that the earth was full of violence continually, and that was the degree that it had gotten to. And he said, okay, I'm just gonna hit that restart button here, and he cleanses the earth of all that unrighteousness or whatever. Or that's situation A, and situation B is, well, we still have like lots of land that's available to people, and none of us are starving because there's lack of resources. It's a fear that people have. And so let's start killing babies so we don't have to worry about being overpopulated. Or China saying you can only have X amount of kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. So if you had both of those and you were to unemotionally look at them, I mean, when I say unemotionally, I mean, you're not connected to either one of them. You don't have stake in either camp. It seems to me that a God that created it, that designed it, and he's the one that decides that things are going to change. I feel better about that than I do about human beings deciding that, well, we potentially could get overpopulated, so let's use that as a reason to kill children. Yeah.
What lyric were you jumping on for that, though?
Well, in the name of your God, for thoughts, beliefs, cleansing the earth, who are you to criticize? You fight for nothing but a lie.
Oh, I see. I see what you're saying. Yeah. That makes sense.
Nations in an eternal war for thoughts, belief centuries old. Yeah, you are merely but a breath away, lost in a moment in taking life.
He starts saying, inside we continue to search for the thoughts, beliefs filling the void. There's nothing but a resolute craving for comfort and powers beyond our control. And the journey begins for thoughts, beliefs filling the void. There's nothing but an empty heart craving for solace amidst the phrase. So it seems to me that this is kind of like saying, you guys made up religion because you're trying to, explain the world. You're trying to explain the inexplicable, and you're trying to find comfort because you don't want to deal with the reality that we're alone in the universe. We got to make it for ourselves.
Okay.
So it seems like the song starts out saying, that's why you guys invented religion, because it's a kind of a typical neo-atheist sort of
So we're alone,
we
and we don't want to be alone, and so we create a religion.
Right. And then life is meaningless, and you want to create some meaning, so you attach some sort of transcendent meaning.
Yeah, but then why wouldn't we just have a heaven that is degrees of goodness?
Right.
Why would we create anything that could be a hell?
Yeah, I mean it's a very popular thing to say, but I don't think that it stands up to much scrutiny. So for example, if you say you're craving for meaning, why would you crave for meaning in a universe that began with random purposelessness existence? Mm-hmm. If the name of the game is just pure survival, then on what basis would you try to create transcendent meaning? Because what ends up happening is a lot of times transcendent meaning actually works against survival in many occasions. So for example, if a person, how many millions of people have willingly died for their religion? And I'm not talking about people going and killing for religion. I'm talking about right now, last century was the bloodiest year for Christian martyrs. And so they willingly, passively died for this religion. And if you look at the first 3.5 centuries of the church, you had Christians that were really, so that belief system actually worked against their survival. Mm-hmm. Right? So that doesn't really explain if the name of the game is pure survival. Furthermore, he's upset that people are taking lives. So, for example, he says, "Will you justify?"
Oh, shit. Is this reputable? This says number of Christians murdered for their faith rose 60% in 2020.
I'm not.
Kind of what you were
I
saying.
mean, I'm not sure. I'm talking about the last century. I'm not even talking about last year.
Oh, okay.
But I'm not just talking about Christian martyrs. I mean, I'm talking about Christian martyrs because we're Christians. But Hindu martyrs, Islamic martyrs, there have been literally millions and millions of people who have been martyred because of their transcendent belief system that worked against their survival. Mm-hmm. So you have to find an evolutionary reason for that. Mm-hmm. Number two, when he says, "Will you justify?" He's assuming that there's some sort of more. We were talking about this yesterday, where the neuroscientists were saying that the neuroscientist was basically saying, "Look, we know we don't have free will, but but studies have shown that if people don't believe in free will, then they become less
very
moral."
Bad.
And so then the neuroscientist was saying it would be irresponsible for us to tell these people that they don't have a free will. To which I responded, "Yeah, but if he doesn't have a free will, then the neuroscientist can't help but be irresponsible." Right. But he was speaking as if there was some degree of responsibility and culpability. Mm-hmm. So which is it?
Right.
Yeah. So the name of the song is really interesting because the name of the song is...
Because you were saying if we have no responsibility and everything is chosen for us, then you can't say it's irresponsible of them to convey that information to the...
Well, correct. And if the sky is empty, then we can't be upset at people for killing other people. You're just stardust, man. Right. You're just random, purposeless stardust with no meaning or purpose in the world, other than for the few moments that you're around. I mean, Earth is. I mean, the universe is what 13.77 billion years. Mm-hmm. You're going to be around for 60 to 80 spins on the planet max. So who cares?
Yeah.
There's. On what basis can you be angry at a person for systemically massacring people? It's just space dust, bro.
Right.
And people say, well, we can assign meaning. Even though we don't have objective meaning, we can assign meaning. That's fine. You can assign meaning if you want. A person, I know people that assign transcendent meaning to an ant. Mm-hmm. I don't. If I see an ant in my house, I'm going to squash him. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's where you are. If you say the sky is empty, there's no God, all this came about randomly. Okay, cool. You hold human beings to some... he's angry that people are killing human beings in the song.
Yeah.
And is it okay if we kill human beings for other reasons other than religion? Mm. I mean, at the end of the day, if there is no God and there's no such thing as a soul, they have no choice but to do that anyway. I mean, everything... I'm assuming a physicalist worldview with this guy. Mm-hmm. So if physicalism is true and everything is just, you're just a machine and you're just doing what your brain is making you do based on all these, 11 trillion counterfactuals that get you to where you are, then on what basis can you be angry at a person?
I mean, I don't think you can.
You know, so those are kind of some of the questions where I'm like,
Yeah.
you know,
These beg an answer.
if you know, nations in an eternal war for thoughts, belief centuries old, you're merely but a breath away, lost in the moment and taking a life in the name of your God. For thoughts, beliefs, cleansing the earth. Who are you to criticize? You fight for nothing but a lie. So this is a guy who's making a truth claim now. Mm-hmm. You're saying that what they're fighting for is a lie. That means that you believe in the truth.
Right.
Because a lie is a negation of the truth, right? Mm-hmm. Well, how can you have any ultimate truth about anything? If everything came about randomly, you know, then how can you presume to know what the truth is?
That is such a funny question. Yeah.
Especially
You can't. That's so funny.
You know, this is the stuff we've been talking about.
How arrogant if it was like that. Like, okay, everything's random, but you figured
it out.
Wow.
And
that's some QAnon shit right there.
Yeah, and then it's like you believe in things centuries old. Guys, this is what C.S. Lewis called chronological snobbery. Where because something was centuries old.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, math was not invented yesterday.
Right.
I was just watching this thing on the pyramids where I think this pyramid in Giza was like 0.0003 centimeters away from true north.
Oh, wow.
Which is good night. That is like some heavy ass math. Unless you're going to say that randomly happened, which some of these folks believes that machine can randomly assemble themselves and work in a systemic fashion that produces a result on a consistent basis. But the idea that just because something is old, it's irrelevant, doesn't work, because literally we've built our entire society on the oldest things in the world. So, for example, the wheel is still here.
Right. Right. And like you said, math, that's something.
The wheel was here thousands of years ago.
That's the thing. When there's something that's been tested over centuries, the longevity of how long something has been around, or how long it was since it was first used, the question is, did it continually get used throughout the centuries? And if it didn't, if it was something that kind of fell off, like they didn't used to wash their hands with soap when they were doing, you know, surgeries. They just kind of rinse with water and go on to the next one. And they were passing all these diseases to everybody. Well, guess what? That was the way it was done in the olden days. We don't do it like that anymore because we figured out that was wrong. And there are things that we're going to continue, like a wheel. You know, we make adjustments on, you know, put some rubber around it. Like, how can we make it a little better, a little smoother? But the wheel is the wheel because it was... Right. When it was created, that was it. The same thing with math,
harnessing
all those
fire.
things. And our religion has its roots in Judaism. So it goes way back. So
and
it's
Judaism
been tested,
has its roots in
It's been tested and tested and tested, and it's stood up in councils, and people have died over this to keep the information.
Well, listen, the Western world is mostly influenced by Christianity. That's a fact.
Yep.
And we've got people on the moon.
Yep.
And the Eastern world is not mostly influenced by Christianity, and they still have a caste system. I've been to India.
Right.
So like
they're still fighting their wars.
It's beneficiaries of people who are beneficiaries of a Christian worldview, who are now borrowing from the Christian worldview to criticize the Christian worldview.
Yeah.
Now, if a person were to say, you're living inconsistent with your stated beliefs, I'm with it. Mm-hmm. I'm with it. But the minute you say, this is a lie, et cetera, because, you know, with all these assumptions, I'm like, cool, but explain to me from your worldview how you even get to the point of saying something is a lie. Secondly, ask any neuroscientist, ask any cognitive expert. Evolutionarily speaking, we do not see the world the way that it is. We see the world according to what's going to get us the most fitness payoffs. In other words, you know, and this is Donald Hoffman. If you're playing a video game, right? You're playing Fortnite. You're actually participating in not programming, but manipulating the program of a computer with a bunch of zeros and ones. If you actually saw Fortnite for what it was, you'd see a bunch of zeros and ones and all the rest of it. They purposely hide that from you. Yep. So that you can operate within the game, and that is how evolution works with our perceptions. Mm-hmm. So none of us are seeing the world for and Kant talked about this, but this has been proven mathematically, and I can get you the documents if you like, dear listener. But we do not see the world for what it actually is. We see what's going to get us the minimum energy possible to get us to survive and to mate, basically. Yep. So if we know that that's true, how in the world can we make these grand criticisms and say...
And it. That's the original command, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth.
Correct.
So it's funny that the fitness payoffs fulfill that command.
Correct.
That works. There's some logic here.
That works in our worldview, right?
Yeah.
It's like God knows that our minds are limited, and so he's gonna give our perceptive abilities what's going to accomplish why we're here in the first place.
Right. Ephesians 6:12 for all you Christians who are like, yeah, why are you? That's not in the Bible. That things are not as
nations
they
in an
seem.
eternal war for thoughts, beliefs centuries old. You're merely but a breath away, lost in a moment, taking a life in the name of your God. Of course, again, this is sort of this mythology that if we didn't have religion, then we wouldn't have war. My brother, and Franco isn't saying this. I'm just operating within the universe of the song. That's not true.
No.
Go tell. The last century was the bloodiest century in human history. And it was not fought over religion. It was fought over land and resources and the Treaty of Versailles, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, that's
and that just gets completely... Whoop.
And you can see it anywhere. Like, it doesn't just have to be... Like, go to a daycare and just sit there and watch the kids. What are they fighting about? They're not fighting about religion. They're fighting about resources. I want this. You have it. I want that. It's grabbing. And and the same thing is true, when you move into a job. I mean, of course... you'll see people, that's why they say if you get a raise, do not say anything to anybody else. You're supposed to keep that to the chest because how people react to those kinds of things.
Here's Captain Corpse. I guarantee that the majority of the people who send people to the moon were most likely atheist. Captain Corpse, if I could prove to you that that's not the case, would that make you a Christian? That's just a demonstrably false. Again, look, the scientists who have had the most influence in the Western world.
From whence do you get your confidence, young man?
Who created calculus? I mean, but again, this is what happens. I would invite a lot of my atheist friends. Read Bertrand Russell's. Bertrand Russell has a book, and he's got a bunch of problems. And now he was an atheist, but he's got a bunch of problems that he challenges atheists to solve. One is induction, the problem of induction, which has to this moment been unsolved from an atheist vantage point. So, for example, why do the laws that we have continue and remain static? Why does gravity work tomorrow? Why is the sun going to rise in the east tomorrow? Why is that? It's never been able to be answered. This simplistic world that if the scientists and the smart people are atheists and religious people can't think, I'm sorry, guys, that just indicates you haven't done enough reading. I'm not talking about your intelligence. I'm just talking about your breadth of experience. Okay? The last century, if you want to complain about bloody wars that have taken human lives in bunches, the last century was the most brutal century. World War I, World War II, I'm sorry, those were not fought over religion. Those were fought over good old things like resources, et cetera, et cetera. The Bolshevik Revolution was a justifiable revolution to a degree in my mind. Then it metastasized into something absolutely horrific under communism. And I'm a guy who is very friendly and sympathetic to a guy like Marx. Because up to a year and a half ago, I was completely ignorant of Marx. I was challenged by somebody on the channel who said, clearly you haven't read any Marx. And I said, you're right. And so I began to read Marx, and I agree with a lot of what he said. And I'm grateful to God that Mr. Marx is on the planet. But it cannot be avoided that the brand of atheist communism that we saw in the Soviet Union brought untold misery to untold millions of people, and they were decidedly and explicitly atheist republic. I'm not going to blame atheism for that. I blame human nature for that. Whether you want to call yourself an atheist or whatever, or you want to call yourself a Christian or a Muslim, the impulse in the human spirit is to eat up as much resources as he can and live in such a way that he has the least amount of accountability to anything but their own desires. And so we know that that's inherently wrong, and so we have to come up with an ism to try to justify that. So I do not blame atheism for what happened in communist Russia. Ultimately, what I blame is human nature. But if you're going to try to blame religion for deaths, then okay. If we want to live in that simplistic world, then okay, then we have to blame atheism for what happened in communist Russia. So I just think that the worldview is a little bit simplistic here. But I love the fact that this guy has moral outrage.
Yeah.
Because even though the moral outrage is not consistent with his worldview, I love that he has it.
Yeah, here's a good one. This might be good for. Whoops. And now we are cursed because all these events are his will, and we have to suffer because of it. And you expect us to worship him? Ha!
Well, I expect you to worship him because he's your creator and he's worthy of it. But look, man, again, if you say all these events came about because of his will and we have to worship him, you're implying that there's some ultimate standard that God should be held to, which I agree with, by the way. But if you're an atheist, it is impossible to say there is an ultimate standard. The best you can do, I was in a debate one time with an atheist, and I said, so there's no God, there's no objective morality. He said no. And I said, okay, so morality is based on people's opinion. He said yes. I said, like color of a shirt. I like blue, you like red. He said yes. I said, okay, so I'm against pedophilia, but the other guy is for pedophilia. So, hey. He said, no. And I said, I'm glad you said that, but it's completely consistent with your worldview.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I could say, as a Christian, of course you should be a pedophile because all of us are created in the image and likeness of God. And so we're worthy of glory and honor.
Yep.
And to violate another human being is to violate God in a sense. And that the principle biblically from Genesis to Revelation is that the strong should always care for the weak.
Right.
And so I asked the kid, I said, what worldview created handicapped parking spots? Survival of the fittest did not give us handicapped parking spots.
Nope.
So I get it, bro. I get it. And I think I said this in another broadcast. The problem of evil, I do not believe can be argued. You cannot intelligence somebody into the problem of evil. There's got to be a mixture of intelligence, experience, and emotion because every time somebody brings up a problem of evil issue, they're talking from their experience and their emotion because everybody has felt the ramifications of sin in the world.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of the mistakes that Christians make is to say, oh, this person, this is how I can deconstruct this argument and blah, and then, but it's like you haven't dealt with the fact that this guy saw his mother waste away with cancer.
Yeah.
And there's no intelligent argument on the planet that is going to solve that problem.
Yeah.
So I understand that as well. I completely understand that as well. And what I would say is that God is big enough to deal with that kind of argument. And if he's not, then he's not God, in my opinion.
Yep. I would agree with that.
So, but holy smoke, sonically, this was such a badass song.
The two voices.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Right from the beginning, it was great.
So good. It was so good. This song, I have to say, it's a banger to start out the stream with.
It really is.
It really sets a high standard. Mike, I hope you knew what you were doing.
I was thinking about this, like, with the first Korn record, it started out with Blind. It was like, like, I was like, damn, like, but that's the thing. Like, some people know how to, like, okay, he's got like a logical kind of thing. Like, we got to start it with a banger, smack people in the mouth, wake people up. I just thought that very, very, very smart. Very, very smart. Here's BC. Democracy gave us handicap parking. Also, it's not called handicap parking anymore. Democracy did not give us handicap parking. Handicap parking comes with an assumption that the weak should be protected and prioritized by the strong. Disabled people or physically challenged people are always in the minority.
Right.
Democracy does not give us that. We had democracy when we had the transatlantic slave trade. We had democracy during the civil rights movement in the 60s. So democracy doesn't get us there. There's been a consistent strand of thought that has gotten us there, namely that everybody is equal in value. And BC, I'm sorry, but the concept that all human beings are equally valuable is not a given. It wasn't a given in the ancient world. It wasn't a given in Greece. Certainly wasn't a given in Rome. It's not a given now in on the eastern side of the planet. Like I said, I've been to these places. Human equality, whether male, female, child, children's rights, all this stuff, these are not givens. The idea that human beings are equal is a distinctly Judeo-Christian ethic based on the imago Dei, or the image of God. Democracy is a political idea, but it does not need to be activated with the idea that everybody is equal. So no, democracy did not give us handicapped parking spaces. Survival of the fittest didn't give us handicapped parking spaces. The imago Dei, the image of God, gave us handicapped parking spaces.
Yeah. If there was a way to, that discussion that you were having with your little buddy there.
Yeah.
If you could shrink that discussion down to be like a 5-minute clip, it would fit perfect right here.
Which one?
Well, because you're talking about like what gives people value and stuff, and then the conversation that you were having in regards to slavery in the scriptures. Oh
yeah, my buddy. Yeah, but that's a private conversation.
I literally just said if it could be shrunk down and inserted.
But even if I could shrink it down, I wouldn't, because it's a private conversation with my buddy.
No, the information, babe, not your private conversation. Just the information. Because he goes, like, when you're going into it and you're seeing that, like, how the scripture, how it went with other writings of its time, how advanced it was.
Yeah.
And the only way that you could have that is if you have an understanding that people were made in the image and likeness of God.
Correct.
And that's why it has the views that it does.
Yeah. Which is the assumption that...
Alas, I don't have those scriptures.
Everybody in the Western world has this idea that everybody's equal.
Yep.
We just assume that in the Western world, people are equal. And that's why we talk about rights. The founding fathers, by the way, did not believe that we had rights just because. The founding fathers said, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, endowed with inalienable rights given to them by their creator.
Yep.
So they didn't start this country saying, hey, everybody has rights and that's just axiomatic. They said it was self-evident because they assumed a creator. Even the deists. People say they weren't a Christian, they were deists. Yeah, but the deists still believed in a God. So, again, I just want to be historically accurate. Were the Crusades horrible? Absolutely. But they were horrible because I believe there's a God and we're created in the image of God.
Yeah.
If you say there is no creator and the sky is empty, then you can't say they're horrible. You just have to say, in your opinion, you didn't like that particular episode in human history. And and there's no, shout out to the big homie. You know what? I would love for one of my atheist friends to read The Poor Man's Worship. It's a small essay by the big homie Bertrand Russell. You could read it in one sitting. Read The Poor Man's Worship and then come back to me. And I'd love to have a dialogue and discussion about it, because The Poor Man's Worship, I've quoted for 3 years on this channel.
Oh my gosh.
And none of my atheist friends to this moment have interacted with it.
Uh-oh.
So please
somebody read that. Interact with Vinny.
I understand, Sam Harris and all is very influential, but there were people around before Sam Harris that did a lot more thinking than he did on a philosophical level.
I wonder percentage-wise how many people on our channel are avid readers. I'd love to see those numbers, because you don't know. Like my mind is like, oh, there must be a lot of readers, and then I'm like, well, it doesn't necessarily mean that, because people have opinions, and it doesn't mean that they've read anything about which they have opinions on. But anyway, this is a 9.9 for me.
9.9. Hey, big homie Dan's in the house.
He's been throwing super chats.
He's a white woman in distress. Shout out to the big homie Dan.
Pass me the roll of tissues there.
You gotta text me, bro. We used to talk like every other day. Then all of a sudden the homie stopped texting me.
When he said that, I was going to
white woman. I said the white woman. Okay, this song is a 10 for me.
Oh no. Okay, I cannot be outdone by you.
I love the harmonies.
10 for me.
I love all of it. It's great.
Honestly,
Great.
Mike, I'm having a hard time giving it a 10 because I'm afraid that I'm setting up your stream to just be like 10. So that's why I was like 9.9. But you know what? I'm not going to make a decision out of fear. I'm going with a 10. It's a 10.
Really?
10 for Vinny.
Really?
Yes.
Really now?
Really. All right, next up on our list, you guys, is, I was going to say Metal Cat. That's going to be our next DJ.
I'm on crack, guys. It's the free man's worship, not the poor man's worship. The free man's worship.
Oh.
The free man's worship.
And nobody corrected you. That means nobody has a friggin' clue. They would actually. Okay. Yeah, we're coming up next with
It's a
another
10.
banger. 10, 10, 10,
It's a 10.
10.
It's a 10. It's a 10.
Tens
DJ
all
Franco started out hardcore. Much love to all the other DJs in the world, but holy smokes, DJ Franco with a banger and a
No,
really
Vin and Sori out.
thought-provoking thingamajiggy. If you're in regular YouTube world, we're going to check you later at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're in the stream with us because you're awesome, stick around because sit tight. We got more stuff for you. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.